Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Today we're painting one of my favorite monsters from Final Fantasy, the Tonberry. This one is a 3D print primed in matte white, and we're going for a clean cel-shaded look, like it's just walking out of a drawn cutscene. I'll be using only paints from the Army Painter Fanatic line, not because they're great for this in particular. You can use other paints and I'll be showing alternatives on the screen as we use them, but because it actually has a pretty convenient system integrated into the paints themselves. On the bottles, they show you the different hues of the same color. So it makes it easy to choose the shadow tint and the highlight tint. So it makes it a little bit easier to achieve this style. But anyway, I'll be taking you through every step from using the base coat to the shadows to the highlights, explaining why each layer matters in pulling off the stylized 2D finish. And by the end, you're going to be able to paint this pretty much on anything you want, as long as you understand what the fundamentals of cel shading are. And I hope that we can achieve that from this video. At least it's going to be my first time, so bear with me on this one. By the way, on this channel, I'm pretty much going to be showing you guys stuff as I learn it at the same time. So if I'm recording something or if you see it on stream, it's typically either the first, second, or at most third time I've ever done it, especially if I'm saying this is a technique that we're going to learn today. And specifically this is about my second time ever doing it. So I'm going to do my best to teach you guys by showing you maybe how not to do it at the same time, but also we're going to learn together. So hopefully by the end of this video, everybody's a little better, or we can spread our ignorance at the same time together. Either way, let's have some fun. All right, first things first, we always want to start, at least in my case, I always want to start with all the base colors first across the entire model for cel shading. This is key to establish all the clean color zones early. Keeps the silhouette really bold and readable. That's what I've found to be super helpful, especially when I did this style for the first time. For the cloak, I'm using Paratrooper Tan. It's a really nice warm neutral, not too yellow, not too flat, and it gives the Tonberry robe a slightly worn canvas feel. At least that's what it looks like in my mind. Like if I think of like a potato sack, this is maybe what that color looks like. It's maybe a little lighter than that, but I like the way that this ends up turning out. The key here, especially when you're doing any of these base layers, is this needs to be completely opaque. And what I mean by that is that you shouldn't be able to see any of the white underneath at all. If that shows up in any part of the miniature, it's going to pretty much ruin the effect that you're going for, because what you're looking for is a super flat image. You're not looking for any kind of 3D reality behind it. It needs to be flat enough to where if you're looking at it, it tricks the eye into making it think it's flat. By the end, you're going to see exactly what I mean. The next layer that we're going to do is green skin. This is a mid-tone olive green that's pretty natural, and it's vibrant enough to stand out, but still earthy enough to feel believable. I like this color. I actually think this is a pretty close color match to the actual artwork. Some people may disagree. This is what I decided is going to look the best. But anyway, that's my opinion. You can use whatever you want. You can make it purple, yeah, but the base coat here is really going to be the mid-level that you're looking for, and whatever color that you choose. Make it purple, make it orange, make it yellow, whatever you feel like. It can be your own version of a Tonberry, but this is going to be the classic green for me. On the shoes, we're going to use Dryad Brown, a dark, rich brown that grounds the model nicely, and it's different enough from the canvas of the cloak that I'm thinking of, because it's got a little bit more of a ruddiness to it, and that's why it's called Ruddy Brown in the Army Painter line. But here are the alternatives as well on screen, just like I said I would put for everything else. The knife blade and metal parts on the lamp are going to be done in ironclad gray. I'm actually going with a very dark gray because we're going to have two levels of reflection on this one. It's going to be the darkest possible gray, and then we're going to go to the mid-tone, which is going to be a lighter gray, and then finally a reflective light on it, because it's going to just be a super sharp, super crisp metallic sheen. And I'll show you exactly what I mean at the end. For the eyes and the lamp light, I start with Demonic Yellow. It's got a very strong saturation that really pops once we layer the highlights on it later. It's a really nice mid-tone, and for me this does look like kind of a fire in the middle section. Not the brightest section, not the darkest section, but right in the middle. So I like this yellow a lot. By the way, if there's any other colors that you guys want to use, again, the purpose of this is to show mid, shadow, and highlight. You can really use anything you want for this. You can make the cloak blue, you can make the shoes green, you can make the skin purple, whatever you feel like, as long as you stick with the styling that we're going for in this video, specifically 3 colors, and it can be more than that, but we're going to be simple here. 3 colors in the 3 different hues: base, shadow, highlight. Simpler the better, at least in my opinion when it comes to cell shading. When every section has had its base tone laid down, it's easier to visualize the whole value map of the model. This is basically how the light and shadow will read together. In cell shading, your base tones act sort of like a flat color layer in an animation cell. Clean, really bold, and ready for the contrast highlights. So once we're happy with all the base layers and how solid they look, we're going to move on to the shadows. Again, we're going to do this across the entire model first before adding any highlights. For the cloak, we're using Bootstrap Brown. This is a much darker punch to those folds and edges, and we're going to focus on the undersides and deep creases. In this case, we're making the lamp light be a super bold light source, which means most of this is actually going to get a lot of shadow. And you'll see that this ends up looking really nice at the end based on our design for this particular model. If you don't want the lamp to be the only light source, of course, you can just do the creases, but in my case, I'm going to make the lamp an exaggerated light source. Next, the skin shadows go down with Angel Green, darker, slightly cooler than the base color, adding dimension without muddying the animated feel. And again, we're focusing on the lamp light as the shadow source, or the light source. So that's going to be our main focus, and the rest of it is going to get that dark contrast. For the eyes and the lamp glow, the shadows are done with Moonbeam Yellow. This is going to be a still bright but cooler tone that's just enough to suggest depth without losing the sort of fiery glow that we're going for in both the eyes and the lamp. The knife and the lamp metal are going to get uniform gray, so we're going to be using that to use as the reflection on the blade portion of the knife. And for the shoes, we're going to be using oak brown to build that deeper warmth in the recesses. And this is going to be pretty stark when you look at it at the end. It's going to look a little close right now, but once it dries and once it provides the contrasting shadow source, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So this stage defines really the form of the model and our light sources. Before, it was very flat. It was just uniformly, this is what colors the model is and what the model is wearing. But now we've defined where the light is coming from and where it's not hitting. So this is giving it that form, like we talked about. And in cell shading, that's really everything. There's no soft gradient to fake realism. The shape of the shadow itself tells the viewer how the light's actually hitting the object, just like in an inked animation cell. Now it's time for the highlighting pass. This is pretty fun. This is where the model really starts to take on the illustrated pop feel. We're going to be keeping our light source consistent, in this case, the lamp. Think of a single studio light facing that particular direction. So the cloak gets highlighted in Urban Buff. It's a pretty soft, kind of creamy beige. Trace it along the belly and the areas on the sleeve where the light would actually be hitting most boldly. This is going to give both the chest and the arm a good shape. The skin's highlights are done in Wild Green, adds a slightly saturated edge that makes the character feel really alive. It also makes it kind of give that spooky, like it's looking at you from the shadows feel, which is funny because you're adding light. So it's making it look darker at the same time. It's a color you'd expect to see outlined in an animation cell. Pretty bright, defined, but not washed out at all. For the knife and the lamp metal, using Company Gray here. Again, it's not quite a white. It's still a super light gray for our highlight tone. And it's perfect for making those sharp cell style reflections without going to a pure white, which might seem like a good idea, but that's not actually what metal would look like. So we're, again, trying to go for a metallic feel. The eyes and the lamp are brought up with Space Dust. This is a pretty bright yellow, and the key is to selling the glow here. It's bright and warm, but not pure white. It's still a yellow in the end. You'll see how it contrasts pretty nicely once we add the reflections later. And the shoes are finally finished with Ruddy Umber. It's a lighter warm brown to give them just like a pop when you look at it from the base. So it's going to be, again, reflecting from the lamp, which means it's going to be the insides of the shoes because both sides on the outside are not really seeing that light. So in cell shading, the highlights aren't about subtlety. They're in fact probably the boldest part of the model, even more than the shadows. They're about intentional shape. You're not trying to mimic how light diffuses in real life, meaning it gets lighter. It actually is just a solid, bold line, just like everything else on this thing. You're stylizing how light defines the form, and specifically, this is that same concept, form over everything. Sharp contrast is what makes the model feel like it's hand-drawn. So now that the major tones are all blocked and shaded, it's pretty much the funnest part here, at least in my opinion, is the black lining. It's the final touch that really ties everything all together. So we're using matte black and carefully outlining the key features. The robe edges around the arms, the knife outline, facial details, mimicking the inked outline of a 2D animation cell, and really strengthening the silhouette. Now, something that I do want to be clear of, throughout this whole thing, I've been fixing things periodically. Of course, you're not going to see it in this video, but animation cell shading is really the most forgiving, in my opinion, painting style, because it's really just the three colors, and because there's no blending, you can very easily just go over any mistakes where you slip or you make little indentations that are going into other places that you didn't mean to. Anything like that can be so easily fixed. So this is really, to be honest, a beginner level painting style that really teaches you how to look at something in perspective. So I really do recommend this as sort of a first try for anybody who's trying to get into miniature painting. It's really fun, and the look looks so neat at the end. It's really impressive too. And then finally, we're going to use matte white for the lamp reflections here. Just some lines on the sides of it here to make it look like it's glass reflection. And you'll see exactly why we did this matte white now versus as the top highlight for the yellow, because we wanted to make sure that there's a fire inside of a glass container. And that's what this does for that. And there we have it. A fully cel-shaded Tonberry right out of Final Fantasy. At least, I think so. Every section was built from clean base tones, stylized shadows, and really crisp highlights. Again, using the Army Painter Fanatic line. Again, I'm not trying to be shell for them. I like them because this is easy for making this particular style, but you can use anything you want. The key is restraint here, clear value separation, confident brushwork, and consistency in your light source. That's what makes this have the form that you're looking for and have that pop that you're looking for. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining me on this one. If you like this, please hit subscribe, drop a like, all that stuff. This is my first YouTube video and my first voiceover narration, so hopefully it wasn't too bad for you. My goal with this channel really is to be helpful to everybody. I will never gatekeep anything behind a paywall. That's my commitment to all of you. If there's anything that I ask for, is that you just tell me if you like this or not, and really just tell me what you want to see next in the comments if you're keen to do so. If not, I hope this was enjoyable for you. Thanks for everybody for joining. Have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy the hobby just like I do. Make it fun.